In this video, we'll be working with factor theorem. I will show a few examples of the application of factor theorems according to the assignment, the Delta Math assignment. Here is the first one. You are given a function f of x equals this, okay? So, and you are given one of the factors of f of x. So now what we're going to do is to find the remaining factors, the remaining zeros algebraically. All right, let's get started with that. So the first thing I will do is to divide. I will divide this given polynomial by the factor to find the other factors. And then I will factor the other factors. So just watch and see. All right, so the first thing I want to do is to divide. Let's divide first. I will use synthetic division to divide this to make it fast. So the first thing is this is x plus 4 is given to us. And x plus 4 is given to us. So I'm going to set it to 0. So minus 4 on both sides. That means x equals negative 4. That's what I'm going to divide by here, negative 4, and then copy the coefficients. 1, 8, this is 1 here, this 8, and 4. Well, there's no skipped term, so it's 3, 2, 1, so I don't need a 0. So 1, 8, 4, and then negative 48, negative 48. So I have copied the coefficient down, and there's nothing that is skipped. The exponent is not skipped, so everything is there. I don't need a 0. Now, the next thing is to just continue the division process. I'll bring this one down. Multiply by negative 4 will give me negative 4. Sorry, I was testing my microphone. So I will add this together. That will be 4. And then 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. And add them together will be negative 12. And then I will do 4 times negative 12 is 48. And when I add this is 0. So that's it. That's the remainder. That shows that actually it is true. Because there's a remainder of 0, that means x plus 4 is a factor for real. So now I can write the other factors. The second quadratic factor will be x squared plus 4x minus 12. I got it from these coefficients left over. So now I'm ready to write my function as a product of two factors. So f of x is going to be x plus 4 times x squared minus plus 4x minus 12. Okay, so the next task will be to factor this part. I'm going to factor this quadratic. So that is not hard. That's the easy trinomial. So there's 1 times negative 12 is negative 12. So negative 12, I'm looking for the factors of negative 12 will be 1 and 12 and 6, 2 and 6. Because I'm looking for 4, so I just stop right there. I want plus 4, so plus 6 minus 2. So I can just go ahead and factor this part as x minus 2 and x plus 6 and x plus 4, the one that bring it down, okay? So let's see if I have answered the question. So the question says, I'm going to find all the zeros algebraically. So I'm looking for the zeros. So I'm not done. So the zeros are, I need to set each of these factors to 0, okay? So the zeros are negative 4 coming from this factor, 2 coming from this factor, and negative 6 coming from the other factor, okay? Basically, what we're doing is we're looking for the opposite of this, and that is what you're writing as a 0. So, and that's what you do there. So opposite. Or if you are not sure, you can actually set them to 0. So x plus 4 equals 0, minus 4 on both sides, and then you get x equals negative 4. You can do that for the rest of the factors, you'll get the 0. So the answers that we're going to type into our delta math bar will be this negative 4, 2, and negative 6. Okay, so we have just dealt with level 1, all right, of that assignment that says factor theorem. So we have been working with factor theorem, okay? All right, now we're going to the second level. Level 2 says to it gives us f of 2 is 0. So giving us a particular value of the function. So it's a little bit different from the first one because rather than giving us a factor, is giving us the value of the function at a particular x value, okay? So you have to remember that if you are given f of something, f of 2 is 0, you can convert that information to a factor. Okay, if f of 2 is 0, then you have to do the opposite. So that means x minus 2 must be a factor. All right. Yeah, that follows from the factor theorem. Okay. So the same thing follows if I give you f of negative 1 is 0. That means x plus 1 is a factor. All right. It's just that at this point you can set each factor to 0. If I do x plus 1 equals 0, that's 0. So if I subtract 1 from both sides, I will get x equals negative 1. So that's why we say f of 1 is 0. Okay. The same thing here. If I set x minus 2 equals 0, I have to add 2 to both sides. So s equals 2. That's why f of 2 is 0. Then the factor coming from there will be x minus 2. So we're going to use this factor x minus 2 as one of our factors, okay? And then that will help us to find the zeros of the other ones. So I erase this work away from here, and then we get started with doing the same thing that we did in the first example. We're going to do exactly the same thing here, and so now we're just going to divide synthetically. We're going to divide by synthetic division. So I will do 2 over here coming from this factor, okay? And then I will write this. First, I inspect the polynomial. There's a 3, there's a 2, there's a 1. So there's nothing skipped, so I just write down the coefficient. 5, negative 11, negative 4, and 12. So from here, I can just quickly, bring down the 5. I say 5 there. And then 5 times 2, this 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, that will give me negative 1. And 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. That will give me negative 6. And 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. And as we expected, this is the remainder is 0, is because this is a factor of this polynomial. So x minus 2 is a factor. That means we got a 0 as a remainder. So now we're ready to write the other one now. So this will be 5x squared minus x minus 6. So we're ready to write our polynomial as f of x equals x minus 2 times 5x squared minus x minus 6. But we are not done. So what we need to do is to factor this trinomial. We're going to factor, one moment. Okay, we are going to factor, 1 second, my computer is stuck. Okay, so we are going to factor this. One moment. So we're going to do factor 5x squared minus x minus 6. If you remember from class, we know that there's a leading coefficient right here. This is a leading coefficient. So, and it is not a perfect square. So we need to multiply this. We need to multiply this 5 times the 6. So 5 times 6 is negative 30. So let's make another place over here for negative 30. So negative 30, I'm going to find the factors of negative 30. Okay, I know 1 and 30, 2 and 15, but I'm looking for -1. So of course I go to 5 and 6. So 5 and 6, and I want -1, so the negative will go with the 6, and positive will go with the 5. So I'm ready to make the the multiplication table now. So this will be 5x squared, and now I'll put this 5 as 5x over here, and I'll put this -6 as -6x over here, and then the -6 coming from here. All right, if you know your factoring very well, it should not be a problem. So common factor GCF from here is, from the top row, is 5x, and the bottom row, we have a leading coefficient of negative, so it's a -1. And now we can find, what am I going to multiply 5x by to give me 5x squared? That will be just x. And then 5x by 5x is 1. 5x by 5x is 1. So I got it. I got all my factors, x plus 1 and 5x minus 1. X plus 1 and 5x minus 1. But we have not answered the question yet. So the question is to find all the zeros, all the zero. Always go back to answer the question, all the zeros. So now, based on the first example I show you, I'm not going to elaborate. I'm just going to let you know here, the 0 here is 2. So the zeros are 2, -1, and then 1 over 5. Okay, if you're not sure about the last one, I can work it for you. 5x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides. So 5x equals 1, and then divide by 5. So it will be x equals 1 over 5. That's our 1/5. That's how I got the 1/5 there. Okay, I think this is these are two examples that cover the two levels. Level 2, a little bit harder because of a harder trinomial, and level 1 is a lot easier. It's just easy trinomial that you get at the end. Okay. Right, if there's any other question, just look at the example on Delta Math, and that should do it for this video. Remember to get high on math, not on math.